The main reason I have decided to make a video and to explain the step-by-step process of opening a pool on ExtraFi is because I have some people who requested it, and I'm gonna adhere to this request because I also mentioned that I will be doing so. All right, so even though to people who have been dabbling in DeFi, this might seem that it's something easy to do, but unfortunately, like I said, most people are not, in the ins and outs of DeFi overall, so they might look at the platform and find it a bit more complicated than it should. Apologies for the intrusion. I just want to slide in with a quick numerical update. So on the development side, right now I have posted a tweet. Go check it out. It will show you the APR range for the past 69 days. Spoiler alert, about 50% plus on USDC contribution. On the testing side of things, so the dApp side of things, here is the mock-up. You connect your wallet. You will see the first version of the vault. You click on it, as you can clearly see, and then you will be prompted in where you could make your deposit, claim whenever there's something to claim, and then withdraw if you wish to remove your money. More details on this coming in soon. I will point out though that Numerical does employ some of ExtraFi strategies. So a bit more than the basic just opening and farming, right? So there are a few more intricacies here and there, but it does employ ExtraFi. So if you don't want to bother with this, you can always visit our website. And if you are interested in earning a decent, stable APY that is, more or less optimized on a regular basis, then this might be more of something that you can explore. But in all cases, here is the step-by-step process to open an ExtraFi pool. Now, thing to understand here is that when you come to extrafi.io, you cannot do this right now. I know it might sound, very obvious, but first thing you need to do, you connect your wallet, you go to farm, and that will take you to this page. Now remember, ExtraFi operates on two blockchains, Optimism and Base. Now, right now, aerodrome is at the, higher end of the hype train, so to speak, because on Optimism, ExtraFi is built on top of velodrome, and on Base, it's built on top of aerodrome. So I'm going to use Base as an example, but the process stands for both. One thing to really consider here is that when you open a position, you are technically being exposed to two assets. So for example, here you are exposed to wrapped ETH USDC, extra wrapped ETH, Wells Aero, so on and so forth. Meaning the movement of these assets, either be it a stable coin or volatile asset, it will affect your equity position because you enter with X amount of dollars, which is usually something you should not focus on. And the amount that will be visible at any point in time will be potentially different, either in the green when your equity is going up, or in the red if, for example, there's impermanent loss, so on and so forth, when your equity is going down. Now keep in mind that because of this, if you are pairing a volatile asset with a stable coin and that volatile asset drops in value, even though you are earning LP rewards, you will see a negative balance, at least on the earnings side, of course, not on the equity side, because the volatile asset is going down. So that's something you should consider. If it's a stable pair and it is going down, means one of those quote-unquote stable coins is dropping below that 1-to-1 ratio that it should be at. All right, so that's something that you should be aware of before you enter any of this. The second thing you should be aware of is that the advantage of using ExtraFi is that you are inherently adding up to your capital that is exposed on velodrome or aerodrome, right? Because if you immediately go on these platforms, you can put in wrapped ETH USDC, but you will only, be able to stake them as it is for the native APR. So the one at 1x leverage. But because here you can increase that up to 5x, 7x potentially in terms of leverage, meaning your capital that is on the underlying platform is higher, and therefore you are earning more for the same buck that you're putting in. But remember, you are earning more in LPs and not in the underlying platform's native asset like Velo or Aero. So your LP position is increasing. You're not just simply collecting these tokens and then selling them, locking them, so on and so forth. So I come here. First thing I will do is that I will click farm for it to enter the window where I could set up my LP. Now the data button here shows me the performance of that pool in terms of returns. So the APY that is, visible, and it shows you that, for example, here it has been dropping constantly ever since the peak in early May. Because I chose the 30-day, I'm gonna go and choose, for example, 14 days. Same curvature, even though it dropped more, now it's going back up again. Remember, those APYs and those APRs depend on two things: the token performance of aerodrome in this case, mainly, and how many people there are in the pool. So how many people are sharing those tokens. And I will add the third thing is that the bribe money that is coming in that is pushing up that APR potentially. So it might not just be that Aero is underperforming, potentially the team is not putting out as much money anymore, or more people are joining in the pool. So I come here, click on farm, and this is actually a cool new feature that they've added, is that it shows me that if there's money to borrow, because remember, you are borrowing more funds to increase your capital. So if there's money from the lending pools to borrow, then I can actually do this. If, for example, you come here and it says no sufficient wells available, means that asset here doesn't exist for me to borrow, but there might be Aero to borrow. So it's in my interest to click on farm and then check for myself. So even though it might say not sufficient funds in any of these assets to borrow, or not sufficient for the normal people who want to enter, but potentially for the premium folks. And just to tell you that premium is people who hold 10,000 V extra tokens. So they have locked in extra tokens. We're not gonna get into this now. I'll just quickly add a side note at the end of the vid, but this is only for these people. If you are a person who has no exposure to the extra token, that means that this doesn't concern you. So I'm gonna just simply click on farm here. I click on farm and this is the interface. So one thing to note is that even though you are pairing up here, for example, Extra and ETH, I can provide only one of them and the pool will be created. So if I only have ETH, I can add up ETH and then it will happen. If I only have Extra, I can add up Extra and then my position will be open. So I can put in as much as I want based on what I have here and there. This is this part, right? So this is the deposit asset part. Now on the right here, you have the summary. It will show you the APR and the APY. Now this is the boosted APR APY based on basically you advancing in terms of, going all the way to 2x leverage, the maximum. So the total APR, sorry, I mixed them up. So it's APR, APY. So the total APR normally at 2x is that much, all right? Now it will be boosted when you leverage. So this is the native APR, and when you 2x, you will jump to this APR. The APY is simply you keeping that position open for 1 year and the return that it will give you. Remember, APR is what you get today, APY is what you get in a year's time. Granted, you are keeping that position open, means your equity is increasing on a daily basis, so that percentage adds up more money to your equity at the end of the day. And this is the daily APR. This is for folks who simply wants to see a daily number so they can get an idea of how much they could be getting, assuming both assets are not moving, significantly apart, either up or down. So here is also the liquidation ratio that you should be taken into consideration. One thing that leverage position have in terms of risks is a liquidation ratio. So if, for example, Extra drops a lot versus ETH, and this is where you see the liquidation ratio at 2x, meaning that position will be liquidated and you can no longer access your money. It's gone, right? And this part right here is the PNS simulation. It will show you in a more visual way where that liquidation might occur. Because right now, I am opening a long position. Now I'm getting ahead of myself, but I'll quickly touch base on this very shortly. So here, that line, the red line, is the liquidation line. So if, for example, the price goes down to this level, aka this level in ETH, remember, not in USD value, in ETH value, relative valuation. It's ETH extra. It's not extra USDC, means I lose my position. The price is currently right here. So this line, the current price line is here. So there's, you know, some way to go for you to get liquidated if you open at 2x, because 2x as a leverage position is not that big. It's still okay, relatively okay. So it's always important to monitor the price of these assets relatively to the liquidation ratio, because otherwise you don't want to lose your money. You might lose some, sure, but it's better to lose some than all of it. And here is that you can simulate, for example, let's say I stay invested for 365 days, and I come here and it will show me that after that period, how much money or what is my return overall on that position. And that's the APY that is showcased here, for example. Now going back to the long and short and neutral positions that you can open, because here is where you do the setup in terms of leverage. By the way, this is also a nice addition. They added how much borrowing there still is that you can use. So keep in mind that here, if you go above the borrowing limit, so let's say I put in 10K and then the borrowing limit is 18K, but then at 2x I need to borrow 20K, means I went above the borrowing limit. So if I push and go above the borrowing limit, that APR will turn negative. And that's something you don't want. For example, here it tells me that there's 50.6 ETH that I can borrow at 2x. So if I were to open a position, let's say at 30 ETH, right? And I were to actually go, you know, that way, it will, now it's not showing initially here, but it will internally go there, because 30 ETH means it will borrow 60 ETH and open my position. That's the gist of it. All right. I can increase more. Let's say I want to go in with 50 ETH, right? So there's still an amount that isn't turning negative yet, but once you open that position, it will. So the borrowing limit is very important for you to understand. So we have three ways to go about this. We have neutral, long, short. Long is simply you betting that the ratio between extra and ETH will go up over time, aka extra will overperform versus ETH, right? Meaning that price will go to the right, and therefore with an LP valuation going to the right, you get more money than you would initially when you open your position. So I'm betting on the price going up, right? I cannot short, unfortunately, because to short you would need to borrow extra tokens, not ETH tokens. Remember, long, extra is stronger versus ETH, means you need ETH. Short means ETH is stronger versus extra, meaning you need to have extra tokens to borrow on the other end, all right? And unfortunately, if you hover here, it says that there are no extra available, even though they are for premium, but you aren't a premium user yet. So you haven't locked in your token, so you cannot do this. So unfortunately, right now, what I can do is I can either neutral. So if I click on neutral, you will see that the API/APR are slightly lesser than a long position. If I do a long position, the APY grows stronger. And plus, remember, price appreciation overall helps me increase my position if I am certain that extra will perform well versus ETH. So perform better than ETH. If I come here, again, to the neutral position, you will see the curvature shift a bit, right? So it is not a straight line, so to speak. It is a descending line, but the descent is quite small. So you can clearly see that the leverage farming, so this right here, is indeed dropping, but it has to drop a lot from a, you know, price value for it to make any difference for you. So overall, if you are somebody who thinks that extra and ETH will move in tandem, and that's something you can check based on the trend of the chart. So if I come here, I look at extra versus ETH, so relative valuation, but this is USD, so I'm gonna flip it to wrapped ETH. It will show me because this is the current price, 3421. Remember here, liquidation is at, if I go long, for example, because now we're in a bit different, is at 1232. So it has to drop by almost 2.8x for it to happen to me. So I'm gonna widen my horizon, click on the 6-month chart to see the performance. Now the 6-month chart clearly shows me a pattern where if I start here that Extra indeed was performing better than ETH, then it did drop quite significantly versus ETH. Let me go 3 months because this is the whole thing. I think this is a better way to showcase. At the end of the day, indeed, you do want to take advantage of the full position and keep it as long as you need, but at the same time, you don't want to overextend yourself. Keep that in mind. So here it's a bit more, clear, so to speak. Yes, indeed, when the price shot up, this is during the base hype. Yes, the performance was so much better, but remember, your liquidation ratio is on the price going down. And the case where Extra versus ETH was at that liquidation level was potentially at the 6-month chart. So it's way, way back when Extra was super low and when nobody was paying real attention to the platform. And that's something that you should understand. So here, right here. So we're talking about an even worse performance, but right now, this is where it's at. So if you do the comparison, it has to drop to these levels somewhere here, basically, for it to make sense for you to get liquidated. Meaning, in my personal opinion, the platform at this point, if it were to happen, would be in serious trouble. So, highly unlikely, but again, don't take my word for it, it's just the chart. So, there you have it. This is the farming side of things, and I basically advise you to do research on these pairs, so to understand how these pairs move, look at the relative valuation, look at if you're not sure where this is coming from. And that's actually something that you should do if we're looking at stable pairs where you have stable derivatives that you don't know where this USDX comes from, EUSD, USDX, whatever. So there are so many, and you need to know that why are these pegged to the dollar? So if you can answer that question, if you can understand what's the reason behind the peg, why is it that it's most likely going to remain at its peg, and the nature of the platform behind it, then you can be more confident in opening a stable pair and taking advantage of these, really cool APRs that you see, for example, for this stable USDZ, USDC. So what is USDZ? Do your research, all right? You can come to the screener, you can search the pair, you can go to Etherscan, RBScan, Basescan in this case, for example, and it will show you the website there. You go to the website and study what is this stablecoin about, how is it collateralized, is the collateral of real value or is just hot air, and then based on this you can long it if you think that the price will still remain there or potentially go up over time because there's some yield accumulated behind that stablecoin when you mint it, or if it's hot air, maybe you can short it, and then you can take advantage of that price depreciation to your advantage. So last thing I will mention here is that you can also lend your tokens, which is super simple. So if you click on the lending page, you can just simply deposit your USDC, your ETH, your USDBC, and then you can earn that APR. Now the so it does say APY because again, it annualizes it in case you keep that money. So it's a bit less in terms of APR. Now, indeed, these APRs are quite nice, but keep in mind that they are very dynamic. So with more demand in farming positions, that will go up. So this could go down as well. And if you are simply somebody who wants to lend their USDC, earn that naked USDC and chill, this could be a potential good play for you if you don't want to bother with the risks that come in with leverage farming. We do have a Telegram group, consider joining. Hopefully I'll be making more of these videos if, underlying platforms are a bit unclear. And with that, see you in the next one. Have a good one.